Today we'll be talking about the last portion related to the time study. Mostly I'll be giving the first of all an example related with the time study involving both man and machine elements and the calculation of the allowances and performance ratings. And thereafter we'll see that how the allowances are fixed in, what are the different types of the allowances and why they are given. And lastly we'll take up one more example related with the time study, where what if the time of certain elements during the measurement is absurd, like say a very high value or low value, then how to deal with those things. So the firms may apply the different approaches to deal with those outliers. And if possible, then we'll start the next method of the time study, or sorry, work measurement, that is about the PMTS and standard data method. So we'll talk in detail about the standard data method, but the PMTS method is very advanced in nature actually. So just I'll give you the overview of the methods. Although it is good, but it needs a lot of expertise, and these are more company specific. So I'll give you the introduction of the PMTS method only, but we'll talk in detail about the standard data method. Both these methods are both these methods are based on the use of the databases. Okay, so we will start our this lecture with an example related with the time study, about which I talked last time also, but not all the details. So here we will go like this. Okay, so this is an example related with the time study only. So like say the work cycle of a job is divided into the 8 elements. Okay, and the time study is conducted for those 8 elements. And when you know that when the time for each element is very short, then the number of observations are taken, and based on that, like say the average observed time for each of the element is recorded. So like say the 8 different elements, 1 to 8. Okay, these are the different elements, and as far as the type of the element is concerned, like first and second elements are manual, third is the powered, and rest of other elements are also performed manually. Okay, and the average actual time observed during the time study is mentioned against each of these elements. Okay, so say we have to determine the rating first and then determine the time standard for these using these values. So say M manually controlled elements and P is the power controlled elements, and the total observed cycle time, sum of all those elements, is say 232. Okay, sorry, 2.32 minutes if we just put all those elements together. Okay, so suppose this is the average observed time for all the elements, observed time only, not the normal time or the standard time. Okay, suppose we select 3 elements, 2, 5 and 8, which are say manually controlled elements. because for powered elements the rating is given 100% only. And then for these manual elements, using the standard data uh, uh, or data bank, the time is determined for those, say, second, fifth and eighth element. And so the time obtained for performing the element number 2, 5 and 8 obtained from the PMTS system or the database approach, okay, is like say 0.145 for second element, and likewise for time for element 5 and 8 like 0.255 and 0.145 for eighth element is synthesized. This is like synthetic time or synthesized time from the database. This is not the actually observed time. Actually observed time we have seen in the last table. So in the synthetic rating method, what we do, like the time obtained from the PMTS method divided by the actual observed time obtained from the time study, these two are used. Okay, so say rating for the element 2 is 0.14 divided by, so this is the actual observed time and this is the synthesized time from the PTS or predetermined time motion study method. So the rating is coming say 90%. Similarly, the rating for synthetic rating for element 5 is obtained, which gives in like say 0.255 PTS or PMTS time and observed time is 0.26. So the rating is like say 98.08%. Similarly, we determine the rating for the another element, eighth element. So using the synthetic rating method, rating of the three elements like element 2, 5 and 8 is determined. For other elements we have not determined, like for element 1 there was 4, there was like 6 and 7. So those four elements, the rating has not been determined, but if we think that the work is almost a similar kind, so what we do, basically the mean of the rating factors of selected element is determined. So average of all these three, like say 90.62 plus 98.08 plus 96.66 divided by 3. So this will be giving us the average rating of all these three, average synthetic rating for all these three elements. Say it is 95%. So this rating factor now can be applied on other manual elements, okay, just for our convenience. So this is the rating factor that can be used on the other manual elements. So normal time for the cycle, normal time of the cycle then can be calculated as like this table I showed you last time, like say element 1 to 8, these are the elements. Only 3 is the powered element for which rating is given 100%, and for other elements what we are doing, we are giving the 95% average synthetic rating for all other manual elements. Okay, so now if you see here, if you just normal time is determined for these elements, so all manual elements like M1 to M2, then skip M3, then M4 to M8, okay, sum of all these elements multiplied by 0.95, that is average performance rating for all manual elements. But if we see the time for the machine element will be determined calculated separately. So since it is 100% rating, so 1 multiplied by like 0.3 only. Okay, so this is the time, normal time normal time or basic time for the machine element, and these are for the manual elements. Okay, so this is what is being done here, 0.95 plus sum of the time of all these manual elements into 1, that is the 100% rating for machine element, and the time required for the machine element. Okay, so this is how we are getting the normal time for a cycle having the 8 different elements, and that is coming like say 2.22 minutes. So now if we have the allowance value, then the normal time can be added with the allowance further. Okay, so what is the allowance and why these allowances are needed? About that we will talk a little bit first. Okay, so the time study is conducted for a comparatively shorter period, maybe for few hours or for few days. Okay, so during this period the shop floor people or workers may not be coming across the unavoidable situations. So when the study is done for a shorter period, the workers or the situations do not arise which are of the unavoidable type. So to accommodate the conditions which are unavoidable in the longer run, some kind of the allowances are given. So this is the main reason, since the study is done for the short period during which we don't find unavoidable situation. So to accommodate the unavoidable interruptions, legitimate interruptions, the allowances are given. So the short time of the time study is the main reason why we need to give some additional things. This is one of the factors. So if you see here in this so that since the time study is done for a shorter period, and that is why to accommodate the conditions which are unavoidable may not be faced. So but still in the standard time those need to be taken care of, or these should be accounted for. So so it may not include the time during the time study. The conditions which are unavoidable may not be included, and there can be a list of the number of factors leading to the legitimate losses of the time which otherwise could have been used in doing the actual work, like the waiting for the material, waiting for tool or equipment, or the periodic inspection in between during the work itself, or interruptions due to the legitimate personal needs. So the work has to be interrupted. So to deal with these things, the organizations or the management they come out to provide some kind of the allowances. Okay, so there are certain types of the allowances which are given, like the constant allowance, certain allowance which is always given to deal with the certain things, like constant allowance includes the personal needs, like the periodic breaks needed. Then some constant allowance is also given to overcome the energy lost in doing the work, or to improve the output by breaking the monotonic kind of situation. So the basic fatigue, to overcome the basic fatigue conditions, also the constant allowances are given. So these may be like say 3%, 4% of the cycle time. So the personal needs, to deal with the personal needs, although this also depends to a great extent the kind of work which is being done, but mostly the basic fatigue and the personal needs, these are the constant kind of thing, maybe 5% or 4% as per the kind of work and the negotiations between the management and the trade union. Then there is a variable allowance. Variable allowance certainly is based on the kind of energy required or the kind of fatigue which is caused by the work due to the hostile working conditions, like very heavy work is to be done, or during the work very high temperature, high vibrations, high noise, in which the workers cannot be exposed for much longer time. Depending upon the kind of hostility of the working conditions, the different amount of the variable fatigue allowance can be given, and it can be as high as 50% of the normal time itself. So ranging from 5 to 50% depending upon the hostility of the working conditions, the variable fatigue allowance can be given. Then there are like other factors, unavoidable delays. Unavoidable delays. So like material is not there, machine is not available. So all the factors which are within the control of the management leading to the interruptions in work or the delays. So to take care of those delays, also some allowances are given. So there are three: 1, 2 and 3. Okay, the constant is about the personal needs and the basic fatigue, the variable allowance where the working conditions are hostile, and the unavoidable delay allowance. Then there is a fourth type which may be company specific, and the different companies give the different kind of the special allowances, right? So special allowances. So these special allowances, these are policy based, these are of the different type. So one is like, say, the policy allowance. If the workers are not able to earn enough, then additional allowance is given so that they can earn reasonably good to survive. Okay. Then there is rework allowance. Like the quality requirements and the tolerance needed in a job is such that it is difficult to manufacture the things. So the workers are given additional time so that they can really produce the things of the high quality standards and with the closer tolerance. So additional time allowance is given for like in one go. If it is not as per the requirement, then whatever additional time is needed to get the things as per the requirement, additional rework allowance is given. Then there is a small lot allowance. A small lot allowance, like the volume of the jobs which are to be produced is very limited. In each setting, very few jobs are made. So obviously, due to the shorter runs, the number of units produced will be less, and more time will be lost in setting and all that. So the workers may not be able to earn enough. So in that case, to provide the reasonably good amount of the earning, the companies may give the additional allowance in form of, like, say, a small lot allowance, especially when the batch size to be produced is very small. Then there is a training allowance. when the new method is introduced, workers don't have expertise, so obviously initially they will be taking longer time to complete the job. Like learning curve, I've told you, initially it may be taking longer time, and gradually the time required to do a job will be sliding with the increasing number of cycles for which job is done, and then it becomes constant. So accordingly, the sliding training allowance, sliding means the allowance value is also decreasing with the increasing number of cycles, because the personnel or the workers may get trained gradually, so they may be needing the lesser and lesser time. But initially, to make sure that they earn enough, the training allowance is given. Okay, so these are like the common types of the allowances. So I'll show you details of these allowances using this. Okay, so about this I have already talked. So the allowances generally applied to the total cycle time, the total normal cycle time, basic or normal basic, total basic time, combining all the elements. Just a minute, I have got a call. The allowances are given on the total basic time or normal time as a particular percentage. So normal time plus some percentage of allowance of the normal time only. Okay, now these may be given separately for machine time and the manual activities and machine elements and manual elements. So if the number of machines are more and there is a possibility of the unavailability or the breakdowns or the time losses due to the inefficiency of the machines or the systems, inability of the machines to the full rating or full performance, so some allowance to the machines also can be given, but it can be separate. So just for sake of clarity, the machine allowance and the manual elements can be given the separate allowance. Okay, as I have said, if there are few things which are happening due to the workers, like the work is not being done due to the variety of reasons related with the workers, then the allowances are not given. So no allowance is given for the avoidable factors within the control of the operators, but the unavoidable factors within the control of the management, these allowances are given, and that too based on the negotiations between the workers and the trade unions and the management. And most of the companies allow the following allowances to their employees: constant allowance, as I said, for personal and basic needs and basic fatigue allowance, delay allowance for unavoidable delays, fatigue allowance for the job causing severe fatigue, and personal allowance, and the special allowances. As I have said, there are 4 types of the special allowances. So so this is how this is the same thing about which, as I said, constant allowance involving personal needs and the basic fatigue, variable fatigue, unavoidable delays, and special allowances. Therefore, 2 other type, like as a policy, rework allowance, training allowance, and a small lot allowance. So these are added. So a particular percentage of all these allowances may be, like say 10%, 20% of these can be identified, and then it is added to the normal time to arrive at the standard time. So as far as the delay is concerned, unavoidable delays includes the interruptions coming from the supervisor, inspector, planners, expediters, fellow workers, production personnel, and others. So these people are causing the interruptions in the work and some time is getting lost in this process. which could have otherwise been used for the production purposes. Say, and some other delays also occurring due to the inefficiency, inappropriate material, like material irregularities. Say material is found to be defective, so in between the material has to be changed. Difficulty in maintaining the specification and tolerance. Interference delays where the workers have to attend more than the one machine, so some time is lost in that process also. As far as the fatigue allowance is concerned, this allowance is of the two type, as I've already said, the basic fatigue and the variable fatigue. Okay, so the basic fatigue is allowance is given primarily to overcome the energy loss during the work, and also to reduce the effect of monotony in during the work. So this type of the allowance is considered as a constant allowance. But when the working conditions are hostile, and depending upon the hostility, the different the varying amount of the fatigue allowance can be given. Just a little detail of the constant fatigue allowance, like when the working conditions are good, okay, and so under those conditions, normally the 4% of the normal time is given as a basic fatigue allowance, and variable fatigue allowance will depend upon the severity of the working conditions. And this fatigue allowance can be given for both mental fatigue as well as physical fatigue, because both can adversely affect the output and the volume which is being produced. So to overcome the mental as well as the physical fatigue, the variable fatigue allowance can be given. Okay, then the variable fatigue allowance, as I said, depending upon the hostility of the working conditions in form of, say, excessive noise, say 50 dB or 55 dB. So illumination, very high light or very less light, high temperature or very low temperature, high humidity. So depending, so these factors we'll talk in the ergonomics section about these factors, how these affect the output and the activity of the different body parts. So nature of the work with respect, so as far as the way by which the body is used during the work, that also causes a lot of the fatigue. So the posture, muscular exertion, and the tediousness of the task to be performed will be governing the fatigue allowance or variable fatigue allowance. Personal allowance is like meeting the physical needs, periodic breaks, say for during periodic breaks in the production routine, or workers need to, and more as I have already said, that if the workers are involved in heavy work, then they need more frequent breaks, and the personal allowance can be furthermore for in those cases. Then the 5% of the allowance is given for the personal time, like say 24 minutes in the 8 hours. This is considered this is normally given. Then the other special allowances like the policy allowance, small lot allowance, training allowance, and the rework allowance. So I have already elaborated the reason for giving these different allowances. This is for ensuring enough for livelihood, okay, so that they earn enough to survive. A small lot allowance when the workers don't get enough expertise. The lot size is so small that in each setup they'll have to work for a shorter run, for shorter batches, so they don't get enough learning curve is not completed, and that is why they take a longer time. Lot of the time is wasted in the setting, and the training allowance is also where in the initially the workers will be taking longer time. So if it is related with the output, with their not incentive, but their salaries and their payments are associated with the output. So if the workers are taking longer time in producing a unit volume of the goods, then of course they will be earning less. So to ensure that they earn enough, the training allowance can be given. Then the rework allowance, especially when the quality and the tolerance, quality standards are too high and the standard, the very close tolerances need to be maintained. So whatever time is lost in ensuring to achieve the desired quality and desired close control, that is given as additional rework allowance. Okay, now we'll see an example related with this. Like so say if say the technician, if one study is conducted in making a time study of a laboratory technician performing an analysis of the processed food in a canning factory, the following times were noted for a particular operation. If the technician performance has been rated 120% and the company policy for allowance is like personal fatigue etc is 13% is the allowance, and the rating performance rating is 120%, then determine the normal time and determine the standard time, considering the situation when the watch reading falling 50% above the average and 25% below the average. Okay, sorry, 25% below. So all the values of the observed readings which are deviating so much, like it is above 50% of the average and below 25% of the average, they may be considered as outliers and need to be discarded. Okay, so say these are like say the 24 runs for which the observations were done for a particular operation, and these are the different time values. Okay, these are the different time values for the different runs. And what is the condition? Like if the observed value is greater than 50% of the average or less than 25% of the average, then those values need to be discarded for identifying the normal time. So how we can do, like the sum of all those 24 readings is say 421 divided by 24, so giving us the average time of 20.04 seconds. Okay, and if the time values greater than the 25%, so greater than 25%, sorry, here it is 1.5 into 20, that is the average, so it will be 30. So 50%, the values greater than 50%, this is just correction, so 30 seconds. Okay, and less than 25% means say 15 seconds. So all the values observed which are of the greater than 30 seconds and less than 15 seconds need to be discarded. So thus discarding the values greater than 30 and less smaller than the 15 seconds need to be discarded, and then considering, and then average is to be determined again. So if it is done, so there is just one value, that is for observation number 11, which is greater than 30, and all other values are within the designed policy of less than 50% of the average and lesser than the on the lower side lesser than the 25% of the average. So this is the only value. So again deleting this one, sum of all these time values are divided by, now we are left with the 23 number of observations instead of 24, and again fresh average is determined. So that is coming out to be like say for 1 divided by 23, so this is giving us the average time, average observed time is like say 19.2 second. Okay, so this average observed time is 19.2 second, and this has to be multiplied with this is observed time, this is to be multiplied with the performance rating to get the normal time. So when it is multiplied, then we get the 23.04 seconds, and to obtain the standard time, the allowances is to be considered. So this is the another formula for in considering the allowance which is used. So we get the standard time considering the allowances of 13%, we get the 26.5 seconds as a standard time. Okay, so that's how we complete the time study related sections, including the allowances, the rating, the method for conducting the time study, and all that. Okay, now we will talk a little bit about the predetermined time motion study and the standard data method. Of course, these two I will be taking. Standard data method I will be taking in any case the next turn. I will just introduce the PMTS method. So in this method, what is done, basically any job, so you see, let us understand this, the any job is done using certain fundamental motions. Okay, and these motions are performed under certain working conditions. Now these working conditions may be in form of, like say, the distance to be covered, the load, the temperature. There can be number of variables under which these motions need to be performed. So these PMTS or standard data method are primarily for synthesizing the manual time for manual activities. Okay, manual time or the time for manual activities. So whatever the fundamental motions are needed to perform a particular job, those are identified or determined first. Okay, and then based on the working conditions, the different factors are multiplied. So basically the fundamental motions, just for an example, like say A, B, C, D are known. So from the database we know that how much time it will take to perform a type of motion, say the 10 per unit distance, per unit the parameter value, say for this is 2, for this is 4, for this is 6. Okay, so the time required for performing certain fundamental motions is known. Okay, now these may be performed under certain unit conditions. Now the load may change, the distance may change, so thereafter the different factors are multiplied, and then sum of all those time values are used to arrive at the total time a job will take. Okay, it is possible. So but another thing is, the firms and companies develop their own databases of these fundamental motions, which are used for synthesizing the activities which are newly developed or the modified. Like say earlier there was one method involving certain steps, and there was a time for that method. So now subsequently method was modified, so obviously certain steps will either be eliminated or will be new steps will be brought in. So now the time for the new method can be synthesized using the fundamental motions involved in that new activity. So the good part is the database is used to synthesize the uh, time required for completing a particular job even before even before the job is actually conducted. Okay, so basically it is about synthesizing the time of the job based on the steps that are needed to perform the job, not actually performing the job. So this is a very good part associated with these data based methods like PMTS or the standard data method, wherein the fundamental motions involved in a work are used to synthesize the time values for arriving a particular the time for a job. Okay, so this has resulted in a number of benefits. Those benefits also about these benefits I will be talking. So the in PMTS the time is established for basic motions under certain conditions, and then these are used to build the time for the job. Okay, it is possible that in one department the average time coming out say 12 seconds, another department where people are slow, so we may use some multiplying factor, it may be, and if they are fast or the slow, then accordingly suitable multiplying factor can be used to adjust the time value identified from the PMTS. So at a defined level of performance we can say the job is being done, so the people of this are working slowly or they are working faster, so the time values identified from the PMTS can further be multiplied using the suitable adjustment factors. Okay, so in PMTS or in these data based methods, the manual activity in terms of the fundamental motions is analyzed, and that is used to arrive at the time a job will take. Okay, so PMTS analyzes the manual activities in terms of the fundamental motions that are required for performing a job. Each motion is assigned the time value. So each fundamental motion or the activity that is needed is assigned the time value from the standard database, and then the timing for all individual motions are used to obtain the total time needed for performing the job. Okay, so the good part, it's very useful actually. The main use of the PMTS or these database method lies in the estimation of the time for performing the job even before when it is actually done. So based on the details of the methodology and the steps that will be needed for performing the job, it can easily, this method can be used to identify the time it will take. So before actually performing also the job, this method can be used to arrive at the approximate time the job will take, and it doesn't involve like troublesome performance rating. So these are the two very good parts associated with the PMTS method. Other applications, so because of this typical inherent nature of these data-based methods, whether it is standard database method or PMTS, these are extremely useful because we are getting the time even when it is actually not performed. So obviously it is good for setting the time standards, comparing the options of the alternative options, comparing the time values of the alternative options that the job will take using the different methods, estimation of the resource requirement based on the time a job will take, for the production. Based on that we may identify how many machines, facilities, manpower will be needed for setting up the facilities or starting the production. Then developing the tentative work layouts based on the, like say it may help in developing the assembly lines, like say there are 4 different stations, so if you can estimate the time that each station will take, so you can you can develop the tentative assembly line, you can rebalance the assembly line based on your the estimated time that a job will take at each station. So it is very useful in setting the assembly lines and adjustments or rebalancing the assembly lines, because we have the time the each station will take based on the PMTS approach. And also it can be used for cross checking the time study results, like I have already said. Performance rating based on the PTS method, wherein the time PTS time divided by the observed time from the time study is also used. That's one of the things. So indirectly, alternatively, this the time obtained from the time study can be compared also and verified through the PMTS method also. Okay, so I think that's all about the advantages. There are a number of PMTS systems. Companies have their own PMTS systems, but a few have developed for public also. So some commonly used PTS systems or PMTS systems are like work factor based methods. These are very old, okay, like 38, 48, 51, 54. So, but these need a lot of expertise actually. A job is to be broken into the fundamental motions in such a way that the time value for those motions is available, number one. The working conditions may change significantly. Actual working conditions may be significantly different, and you know there are a number of factors which affect the time a job will take. So these methods need lot of expertise and experience. So this is not so easy to implement actually. So unless there is a significant saving from the time study through the implementation of the PMTS method, then only it is done. Otherwise, because the kind of the work which is involved in analyzing the job and the kind of expertise which is needed, these are two very costly affairs in PMTS. So this is these are the techniques of the experts. Okay, so about I'll just give the idea of the work factor method, and thereafter I will talk about the standard data method, which is completely simpler and that can be easily applied in number of situations. So about that I will talk in tomorrow's lecture. That's it from my side. I'll see you tomorrow. Let me take attendance on the day.